Hello, mayors. Hello, mayoresses. How are you all doing? I hope so. We're here to start another episode of Barboza Island, our vanilla island. If you like this series, I ask you to leave your like here at the beginning of the video. If you're not subscribed yet, consider subscribing. And if you can share, it will really help me grow here on the channel. We're here with our view of the main village, the main neighborhood here, the most historic one. We have a second neighborhood over here farther away, very residential and a bit industrial, also with rural areas, and our import and export area over there at the port, and also oil extraction here in the sea, which has oil located around there. Well, as you can see, first we expanded a lot in this direction, and now we're going to start focusing here on this other side of the island. In the last episode, we even made a transition, prepared the land here, laid out some roads, and bought the tiles here. And I believe that now everything is ready for us to expand over here. I even finished this last neighborhood here, as you can see in the time lapse. It was something really simple, really quick, because it was just a small piece of the neighborhood that was missing. And I wanted to do it here by myself, off camera, just bringing you the time lapse and comment over it, instead of doing it live here, which would be extremely quick and simple. I just had to erase and redo the streets a few times, especially the street that goes up so it wouldn't be too steep and would also have a nice design. And then I took the opportunity to put some houses on the flat part as well. I made this subdivision that goes up the mountain, but on the other side of the street, I put houses on the flat part, between the neighborhood street and the highway that runs here next to the lake. And that's it, man. I just filled in with trees between the lots to get this effect here. So it ended up the same here as it was over there, and man, this neighborhood going up the mountain turned out really cool. We can tell what's the old neighborhood and what's the new one by the color, right? The old one, since the houses are on a higher level, is more colorful, right? I guess people there have money to buy paint. And here, since the level is still low, the houses aren't as colorful. And here, look, the house in this flatter area, and over here, we already have the highway. And, well, I was looking here, we're in spring, before I started this episode. We were still in winter, and the snow had covered a large part of this area, around the urban area here. It didn't actually snow in the city. It has never snowed in the city since I started the map. But here on the mountain, man, the snow reached about up to this street here. This alley we have here, look, the snow reached these houses, and this mountain here was covered in snow completely, and I said, there it is, man. There it is. The climate justification, the geographical explanation for the houses here on the hill being different from the rest of the houses, is because it ends up snowing here. So the houses had to adapt to a colder climate. So look, they have a little chimney here, right? The houses down here, since it doesn't snow here, generally. Look, this one even has a little chimney, but in general, they don't, okay? In fact, many of them have, look, a pool here in the back. Because I believe that here too, in the heat, it must get a bit warmer. But anyway, 7 degrees in the spring is not warm at all, at least by Brazilian standards. Anyway, let's go then. Let's get to this island. I'm already going to buy some areas of it. I think, man, that we can buy maybe here. Look, this piece, let's buy here. Here we could make a low-density suburb. I don't know if I should buy it now. I'll buy it. There will only be this row left, so I can get it too. Alright, most of this is already acquired. We've already connected the 2 areas here, one to the other, and we can start thinking about how this is going to be. Okay, first we have to define a building style before we start building. And the style I thought of was to use one that I haven't used yet in Cities Skylines 2. In our last series, in Bahia de Barbosa, we used the English style, the German style, and both of the United States styles. Here, we worked a lot with the Mediterranean style and also used the Chinese style. We still haven't used the French style, the Japanese style, and also the Dutch style. Okay, I've already used everything else here, but since this is a European style, whether we like it or not, right? Mediterranean. It really reminds me of Italy, Spain, and so on. I thought, man, let's try to do something that's not European, right? From Europe. So that already rules out France and the Netherlands. The Japanese style was left, so that's what I'm going to try to explore here on this island. And taking a quick look here in Japan, I'm even going to leave Tokyo for a bit because, man, Tokyo is huge, right? I'll come here. I don't know exactly what the name of this region is because I disabled the names from showing up on the map so we can have a cleaner view, right? This is a downtown area and, man, there are some really wide avenues here. How many lanes do these have? Look, 4 lanes here at the traffic light, 4 lanes on this one, right? And usually there's a grid, okay? A lot of grid. It's not a perfectly straight grid, right? There are a lot of breaks, right? Look, an elevated highway here. See, a highway cutting through everything. There's a park. I don't know what this is here. It looks like it could be a museum, a university. There's a rocket on display here. Look, here there's another big avenue that we can see. Very wide avenues, predominantly a grid, but a somewhat irregular grid. Even, look, when we have some grids on a micro level. Look, 1 block here, 1 block here, 1 block here. That's 4 squares. And when we zoom out, we can see that the avenues themselves also form a grid. Look, there's a square here, there's a square here, and another one here. Look. So the avenues themselves end up forming squares too, okay, between them. Man, I think these patterns that the railways make cutting through the city are really cool, dude. There's a canal here, a really straight river, right? Very rectified. And there's also a lot of low density over here. Look, and these low density areas, they're usually made up of alleyways. Let's zoom in. See, it's an alley, man. The utility pole is even in the street because there's so little space. Actually, outside the central area, it's hard to find a residential street that's not an alley. Here in the center, I think you can even find normal residential streets that aren't alleys. But this isn't really houses either, right? There are several buildings on this street, but I'm talking about this style of street. Let me zoom out. Let's see where the houses start. Look, here no, this is still a building. We'll have actual houses, but here, look, here there will be some houses. And here the street is already really narrow. Really narrow, actually. Here it's houses. There are still some buildings, but the street is it's getting narrower. Well, let's try to bring this to this island. I even tried to look for an island in Japan with more or less this shape that's really populated, but I couldn't find one, okay? So we're going to have to make our own version. Well, for this entrance here, I'm going to use a 4-lane avenue and I'm going to bring it all the way down here, up to here. And in the future, we can put another entrance here, another entrance over here, right? And make a horizontal connection. So I would kind of cut here, look, this island along this horizontal line here with another avenue. Let's see if we can do something like that. Or here's the thing, I can take this 4-lane avenue here. Or is this going to be too wide? 4 lanes is a bit too much. What about making 2 avenues here? Look, one going and the other coming back. Well, I'll leave this one with 4 lanes. We'll see how it turns out. Well, between both, I'll even put a little street here to make this division and separate this avenue from this one. Man, I think I'll bring this avenue a little closer here so it's not right on top of the intersection. And then it's already an excuse to break up the straight line a bit, right? Of the grid. I made this connection here. Look, it would be something like this. And this neighborhood street would keep going through here between the 2 avenues. And then I think I would even keep going a bit more with this setup up ahead. I like it. You could even at least make a part over here based on what we've already done. I replicated it here. Man, I think an initial layout is good, right? A central layout. And it even looks kind of planned. And, well, we have a space here where I wanted to make a park. And I could even remove this one here, look, and put a park right here at the entrance. Maybe I could make a passage down here, but I think I'm going to do it differently. We've already made a park like this, more or less, right? Over at Praça dos Encontros in our English city in Bahia de Barbosa. I think I'm going to leave the park area here on the side, okay? Right here, next to the avenue. And that way we even avoid having to build a tunnel underneath and end up making the construction simpler. And we use this here, look, as a turnaround. I would just make it a bit easier here, look at these intersection accesses, by using one-way streets. I think this is a good measurement here. Look, it's going more or less like this. Look, I'll do it on this side here so you can see. I'm leaving a space of 3 units here. Then I bring the curve up to here, right at these corner squares. Right here. And then I connect it over here until this little circle is exactly where I clicked before. Look, here. And then we repeat this same logic. Look over here, and then both sides are symmetrical, right? They're mirrored. I think I'm going to remove this here too, man. Otherwise, these intersections will be too close together. They could even be a boardwalk, but for now, I'll leave it out here. Here, we could make a boardwalk in this part. Look, there won't be any problem. And now, I just need to remove all these unnecessary crosswalks and traffic lights. Done. I think a setup like this is pretty good. Actually, I'm even going to apply some lane math. We saw this happening over in Japan, right? In that image we saw on Google Earth. So I'm going to put it here. Sometimes the lanes open up and close. All right, here we have an initial avenue layout, right? Then I'm going to bring these 2 over here. At some point here, the 2 will merge into 1, okay? And then I'll extend this up to here and make an exit onto the highway here. Look, it would be... I'm even going to make an avenue right here. Look, I think it could even be a 2-lane road for each direction. 3 might be a bit too much. And so I don't end up a bit crooked like this. Look, I'm going to try to make it parallel to this highway using, look, a dirt road here to help us. We have, look, from the highway up to here. 264 meters, 132. It's half, so it would be about here, look, between 136 and 128. I prefer to leave it closer to the beach, so this avenue will be here, look. I'll make it a dirt road for now, and then I'll just update it later. Look, let me drag it straight up to here to see roughly how I'm going to make this connection here, look. And here, I'll already update the dirt road to an avenue. Nice. Now I just need to bring these 2 ends over there. And we don't see a lot of curves, right? Like, we haven't really seen many curved streets like that. Over in Japan, usually the streets are straight and the curves are kind of sharp, more or less like this. Look, really hard turns. Yeah, so I'm gonna do it this way, man. Now I'm gonna have to make the way back. And the way back is going to be even a bit harder to connect here. How am I going to connect this in a nice way? Maybe just so we can check a measurement here. Look, from here I pull a street, then I come with this one. Until both of them meet here? No, I think it's too close, right, to come over here. Only if it went straight like this. Or if I brought this street over here, I'd get a new checkpoint. Right? Let's say like this. Look, you know what I mean? If this street here is 240 meters, I'd try to bring 240 here, but I think that's gonna be too much, man. It would come up to here, see? Because then I'd pull another street from here, right? And then I'd bring, look, a connection over here like this, and from here I'd bring it over here. See? Here we even made a curve, right? I said there isn't. It's not that there isn't in Japan, there is, right? But the streets, they don't make... It's because this really looks like it was an adapted construction. Actually, the original project was straight, right? Like this here, look. But then there was an adaptation here, an urban renovation, and a recent project. And that's why the curve... Am I over-explaining it? But I don't even care. If it looks good, that's what matters. From what I can see, it's getting an interesting layout here. Now I'm going to make the curve this way. Alright, man, this detour from the avenue turned out really cool here, right? It's going to come here like this and then go this way. Alright. Then here, I'm just going to make a simple connection here. Look, nice. Even to turn these 3 lanes here into 2 and bring one of them here as a turnaround. On this street here, it won't work. Maybe on an alley here. Look, we can do it. Well, the cool thing about making this Japanese city is that, man, it's making me so mad that I can't remove the traffic lights here, crosswalks. I just can't, man. There won't be a turnaround either. And now I'm going to create the surroundings here in the following way and following this pattern. Where there's already road by, I'll keep using road by. So it would be here and here. And the rest, man, will all be alleys, those little back streets, you know? And then here, right? I'm going to make the horizontal streets with the alleys. That's how we saw the blocks behave in the example we got from Google Earth. See, I made a kind of irregular path to simulate this. Here, I'm going to make this alley curve, right? Along with the avenue. See, going parallel with the avenue. Okay. I think the layout looks pretty acceptable up to here. Here, I'm not sure. I think I would make a street parallel to this highway here, just to really mark where the city begins and ends. There we go. I think this outline on the outside looks good too. Now I'm going to draw the blocks on this side. It's not time to zone yet. I'm going to try to make this street look like this one on the other side, as if they used to be the same thing. And they were separated by the passage here at the city entrance, right? By the highway back when this intersection was built. So I'm going to continue here with these ends connected facing each other. Well, and it turned out like this, look, as you can see, right? Here I did some kind of crazy hacks. An urban improvisation, I guess. I like doing this, okay? It really reminds you of some desperate measures, right? But it's just to create a slight resemblance here. Well, I think this is great to start with. Maybe I'll make a bus terminal here in this spot, right? I don't know. I'll take advantage of the fact that this is a one-way street. And then, buddy, the bus comes in here, it leaves here, accesses the bus terminal, and comes back here, right? It creates a loop here, see? And I make this terminal circuit. But before I get everything running, I have to update the streets to bring in electricity. See, you get it? I can't get electricity through here. Why? Because this is an intersection made with anarchy turned on. So I have to turn on the anarchist to be able to do this. That's why sometimes people find it strange that I'm playing with anarchy. This is a map made with anarchy. So at several moments when I'm building, there are simple things like this that I just can't do. Because when it was built, anarchy was turned on. And now it needs to be on for me to be able to change it. Basically, that's it, okay? Well, we have a connection here and another one out here. I think it would also be interesting to have it so we don't get an energy bottleneck at just one point. All right, this already has power. It's also connected to water. Nice. Well, let's see what we have in terms of Japanese-style zoning here. No high density, only low, medium, and mixed medium density. For commercial, there's low density. For offices, there isn't any. Anyway, that's the problem. It's one of the criticisms I have, these regional packs. Sure, they're free, but there's very little variety, okay? They should come more complete with all densities and a variety of sizes too. Well, around here I wanted high density, man. I'm going to have to use the Chinese one. I know that actually I'm going to put an office here. I know that Chinese and Japanese are not the same thing. But out of all we have here, at least geographically, they're the closest to each other. I'll also put a regular high-density office more or less here because I wanted to surround this square with tall buildings. All right, I'll let it grow there. I'll also put a high-density one, and it can be here along with a high-density commercial area because none of the regional packs have high-density commercial. High-density commercial. If you want, it's just vanilla. Pretty lame. Well, let's put vanilla then, right? That's what we can do for now. I'm going to make this area a good shopping region, right? There's a lot of commerce, people are already arriving, and a density is forming here. Well, I'm going to use the mixed zone here since we have demand for medium density and commercial, right? I'll put the mixed zone here on the avenues and the medium density back here in the back part of the blocks because we're creating a gradient. Well, public buildings, let's see what we have. Of the Japanese style, which is what interests me. Well, we have to have a crematorium, right? There's no Japanese crematorium here, but we have to have one. Put it over here in the corner. Okay, Japanese hospital. Well, we have a medical center, but we could already unlock the high-capacity hospitals here. I'll put a little patch of grass here too, look, and then we can already use this bigger hospital here to serve all the people who arrive. Let's see how many we have here already. We've already done a bit, but there are probably a lot of people already because we only zoned with high densities, right? Medium high, see? Already 1,000, not 1,000, 2,300 people living around here, and of course 2,300 people arriving all at once. There's going to be traffic problems. It's a highway, you see, just like that, okay? Just like that. It's just about everyone arriving and settling in. Let's check out the hospital. Look, this is the Japanese-style hospital. It has an upgrade here, see, that adds a few more floors. So, for now, I'll leave it without. We have a Japanese recycling center, but maybe I'll put it over here. Of course, I'm not going to put it in the middle of the city. School. Well, we have a college area here. There are college buildings, university college, that we can build. Maybe over here, near the train station. We can put a train station here in the future. But let's go with the elementary school. Well, I think I'll put this elementary school here. Wow, what a big space. Spacious. Elementary school. Primary education. We can add some expansions. I'm going to add them because usually the spots fill up pretty quickly. Because there's high school, which is even bigger. Man, I think I'll put it over here. I think I'll remove this block here. Do you think I can put this school here? No, it's even bigger. Damn. Let's put this school here, which can also be expanded, right? Man, I'm putting the expansions here, but it's because it looks really ugly with nothing here inside. And this is the style, of Japanese schools, like the ones we see in anime and stuff. And we bought the hospital with the highest capacity. We can also buy the fire stations here with more capacity too. And put it around here. Look, it'll fit perfectly even when I build a street. Going around this fire station. Man, this empty space here, sorry, it's kind of boring, okay? Wow. I'm going to have to put some things here to fill this space. I haven't liked these Japanese public buildings so far. We also bought the police headquarters here, and now we have the Japanese police headquarters, man. A gigantic building. So I think I'm going to build the bus station here. Let me see how big the bus station is. Actually, it's a bus terminal. It's not that big. I think this one fits better. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it here. I'll create a little street around the terminal just to make it easier for the buses to get in and out, For the routes we're going to create in the future, we can even put some signs here. And what's really Japanese here, man? It's this asset here. Look, these assets, right? But I don't know. I'm not a fan. I didn't really like them. I'll try to improve it later with some detailing and all off camera. But for now, I think it's kind of lame to have to mix them, okay? Putting these generic ones here, man. They're really ugly. They're repeated right next to each other. I'm gonna have to pay attention to this so we can make this little town nice and cool, right? Photogenic like this one here. Look, this one turned out top-notch, right? But I'll take care of this here. Maybe I'll add some details off camera, fix it up aesthetically, and then do a time-lapse in the next episode. What I want to do here is this. I want to customize this park, creating a layout to remind, I think you guys even know what it is. Here, look, a rising sun in honor, of course, of Japan. Look, I'm drawing the ray here, as always, from the center. Then, look, I'm deleting here and leaving only the outside of the circle. There you go. In the end, I think it turned out nice, huh? I think we can have some fun with it. There aren't any red floors in vanilla, which is a shame, but there are some yellow ones here. I'm not sure if it's exactly yellow, but let's try it out. It's better than nothing, right? There you go. Sun Plaza. I think here in the center, in the circle, I'll do it too and go for it. No, around here. I'm going to put some tall trees. Then on the rays, I'll put medium ones. Maybe this one here, look, on the sun's rays, and a smaller, tiny one here on the edges. I don't think it turned out well, huh? I think it's because I mixed the trees. Well, I redid it here. There you go, done. I think it looks better this way with fewer trees and keeping more of the same type. And I put a hedge here. I put the trees along the path, right? Because, after all, they're supposed to provide shade. And I even put, look, a little patch of grass here where the trees are planted, always in the center of these paths, right? These boulevards. I think in the end, it turned out better this way. Well, I'm about to wrap up the episode, but first I want to create the bus line that will connect our old city's bus terminal to here with a really express route, right? It's good because it's already going to use this new entrance we made a few episodes ago. It's going to go up this little hill here, so it won't even come in through here and cause traffic in the city. That's really good. I'm going to do a round trip here directly, and that's it. It would be interesting for us to have a bus garage around here, right? So here, maybe I'll put a garage somewhere around here. I'll put it here. maybe it won't be permanent, right? Maybe it's just temporary, but just to have a garage here? Well, in the next episode, I'll try to review this subdivision here, right? Because I thought it turned out, first of all, these buildings are hideous, okay? And I thought it turned out really lazy here. You see, the way it was done. So maybe we start with a time lapse, fixing it up the same way I did here, see? Here, if I messed around any old way, it would look kind of ugly. But with care and attention, it works out. Okay, well, today's episode was more for us to get the ball rolling. I'll also wait. Actually, there's no point in waiting for those guys to show up, right? Because since I'm going to rebuild here, they'll have to show up again. The free camera is going into a truck here, man. Actually, it's going into a buzz. Yeah, I can't do it. I wanted to walk over there in the park. I think the mod must be bugged. Look, trying to enter free camera mode. It goes over to that bus. Unnecessary. I'll have to go manually here so we can see how the park is, right? The frames per second is already pretty low, man. I don't know why. 19 FPS, 18. It's already the frames per second we had back in Bahia de Barbosa, right? A big city with mods. So same thing here, 23 FPS, 22 FPS. Yeah, it's kind of tough, right? Cities Skylines. Anyway, a few episodes ago it was 40, right? It was double that. I really don't know what happened, but anyway. Thank you so much for making it this far, okay? We're going to fix up this Japanese city. Let's see what we can do. Honestly, for me, it's much more complicated to build while I'm presenting, you know? Building like this, calmly off camera, has been much more efficient, you know? I've been delivering nicer, better works. Thank you so much to our council members, you know, who are a pillar, the foundation of this channel. Thank you very much to our secretaries who are watching this video in advance, along with our vice mayors. Orbital, Giovanni Freitas, Jose Fernando, Nagal, Pedro Mendes, and Rafocho were always together. A big hug, and see you next time. See you.